The face of Solomon twists into a sneer as he looks up at Seto, seemingly finding some cruel amusement in the boy's recognition. Then after a moment he speaks, confirming that yes, indeed he is the spirit of Seto's grandfather, back from the Shadow Realm. Still shocked, Seto asks what his grandpa is doing here, and why he's dueling for the man who kidnapped him. But with an unmistakable coldness to his voice, Solomon replies that he's not dueling for Pegasus. Pegasus simply gave him the chance to get revenge on his good-for-nothing grandsons. This claim only horrifies the young brunette more, but with a look of confusion, Yugi asks why Grandpa wants revenge on them, to which the old man answers that both Yugi and Seto failed him by standing idly by as his soul was stolen. Since then, he has languished in torment, the likes of which the kids cannot imagine. Though luckily, Pegasus has given him an out. If he can beat Seto in a duel, the boy can take his place in the Shadow Realm, while he will be allowed to go free. Stepping forward, Seto states that he is sorry he couldn't save his grandpa, and he will find a way to save him from his prison. He promises, but this is not it, since there has to be a way where they can all go home together. At these words, Solomon's face darkens, and in a tone he's never taken with his grandsons before, he snarls that Seto is an ungrateful brat. He gave the boy everything, so by all rights, he should be able to do with Seto as he pleases. This claim proves too much for Yugi, who tearfully tells Seto not to listen to their grandfather, since clearly Pegasus has done something to his mind. The real grandpa loves Seto, and would never say these things about him. Masking his own hurt, Seto nods that he knows, but that's why he has to battle the old man, since maybe by beating him in a duel, he can free his mind of Pegasus' poison. He then takes a seat, wagering all three of his star chips, while with a malevolent laugh, Grandpa does the same, causing the table to come to life as both duelists draw their opening hands. Taking the first move, Seto summons his beaver warrior in attack mode, but the armored rodent is not going to stay around for long, as with a grunt, Grandpa summons his feral imp, also in attack mode, and has it savage the beaver, dropping Seto's life points to 1900. He then lays 2 cards face down, and ends his turn. Gritting his teeth, Seto realizes that the old man isn't pulling any punches, and with an opponent of his grandpa's caliber, neither can he. To that end, he summons one of his grandpa's signature monsters, the Dark Magician, and while he feels the same odd resistance as last time, he cannot dwell on it, commanding the mage to use Dark Magic attack on the imp. Raising his staff, Dark Magician complies, though before the blow can land, Grandpa reveals the first of his face downs, the Spellbinding Circle, which promptly ensnares the magician, weakening him and leaving him exposed to a counterattack. Unluckily for Seto, Solomon has one lined up, and if there was any doubt before that the old man wasn't using his own deck, it is immediately snuffed out when he summons the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Seto has never been so terrified to see his favorite monster before, but this terror is only amplified when his grandpa employs a combo that he taught his grandsons long ago, equipping the dragon with Horn of the Unicorn and going for game. From the sidelines, Yugi, Mokuba, Joey, Tei, and Tristan all cry out for Seto. Though as white lightning shoots from Blue Eye's mouth, Seto puts his faith in one last card, Magical Hats. Suddenly, a quartet of hats appear on the field, hiding the magician, and as one is eviscerated by the draconic attack, everyone holds their breath and waits to see if this was the one containing the Dark Magician. Looking at his life point total, Seto is relieved to see that it is not, and so with it now being his turn again, he draws, pulling brain control. Seeing his own chance to end things now, the brunette immediately plays the spell, gaining control of the empowered Blue Eyes and telling it to wipe out Feral Imp and all of his grandfather's life points. However, here Solomon reveals his second face down, Mirror Force, with the trap card destroying Blue Eyes and dropping Seto to a scant 50 life points. Though Dark Magician is spared thanks to the hats, Seto is shattered, unable to believe that he fell for such an obvious ruse. Since he and his grandpa are using identical decks, he knows every card the old man has, so why didn't he pick up that the second face down would be a trap? From outside the box, Yugi and Mokuba know what must be going through Seto's head, since he's always too hard on himself, and so call out to their brother, telling him that it's not his fault, and that anyone would be rattled in his position. What matters is that he doesn't lose focus, otherwise he'll be sent to the Shadow Realm for sure. Looking into the eyes of Yugi and Mokuba, Seto forces himself to straighten up. He can't fail here, not when his brothers are counting on him. Seeing this, Solomon states that if Seto will not accept defeat, then as the one who taught him how to duel, he will make this his final lesson, bringing forth Summon Skull and commanding it to attack the rightmost hat. Fortunately for Seto, this hat is also empty, allowing him another turn. Making the most of it, Seto wastes no time in fusion summoning Gaia the Dragon Champion and dispatching his grandfather's fiend now that he has no more face downs to use against him. This deals the first damage of the match to Solomon, bringing him down to 1900 life points. A small victory, though Seto is well aware that he still has a long way to go if he wants to win this, especially when he only has 50 points of his own. Now it is Grandpa's turn again, and showing off yet another of their shared cards, he brings forth the Dark Magician, though unlike Seto's mage, he equips his with the Book of Secret Arts, boosting Dark Magician's attack to the point where it can wipe out both the Dragon Champion and Seto's remaining life points. However, when the magician goes to attack, Seto reveals that he suspected his grandpa would try something like this, and so had a plan in place to thwart him. He then plays his spell, Monster Replace, which lets him swap a monster on the field with one in his hand, with the Dragon Champion vanishing and Blue Eyes appearing in its place. This causes the Dark Magician's attack to backfire, with the mage being destroyed and Solomon's life points dropping down to 1700. Though as this happens, Seto's eyes are not on the field or the life point counters, but on Solomon as he scrutinizes him closely. When the proverbial dust settles, and it is Seto's turn once more, he informs the old man that he might as well give up the ghost, since it's pretty obvious he's not the real Solomon Moto. At first he didn't see it since he was so wrapped up in the fake sick head game, but after his brothers helped him clear his mind, he realized the man claiming to his grandpa duels nothing like him. Sure, he plays the same strategies, but there's no hint of the respect Solomon holds for his cards, with this guy simply throwing boss monster after boss monster at him with no concern for if they get destroyed. So now, for the sake of his grandpa's honor, he's gonna bring this imposter into the light, and he's gonna do it with the help of some friends who are near and dear to his grandpa's heart. On these words, Seto's Dark Magician emerges from its hat, and as it and Blue Eyes converge, they launch a tandem attack, which strikes Feral Imp, obliterating it and causing the duel box to overload, just as the pretender Solomon's life points hit 0. This is not the only major occurrence to happen though, as the imposter is blown off his chair by the force of this finale, and when he crashes to the ground, his veneer fades, with him being exposed as a short fat man with pink hair, which gives him the distinct appearance of a clown. Furiously, Seto demands to know who this clown is, with him grinning he has many names: Mimic, Imitator, Ventriloquist, though now he is known as an Eliminator, having been hired by Master Pegasus to remove Seto Moto from this tournament. Scowling, Seto asks why him, to which the Mimic answers that Master Pegasus desires something from his brother little Yugi, and as it stands, Seto's continued presence on the island is the most likely hindrance to the Master's plan, meaning the brothers must be separated. On this last word, Kimo makes his play, grabbing Mokuba and attempting to run, though he doesn't get far as Yugi, Joey, Taya, and Tristan all tackle the security guard to the ground. Bursting from the box, Seto wrenches Mokuba from Kimo's arms, asking if he's okay. Then when the boy says he is, Seto growls that both of Pegasus' lackeys are gonna pay dearly for trying to harm his little brothers. Unfortunately, this is only half right, as in the chaos the Eliminator flees, though truthfully no one cares, as their eyes are all locked squarely on Kimo. In a deadly whisper, Seto instructs the man with the pointed head to deliver a message to Pegasus from all of them. They're coming for him, and they're not going to stop until they've rescued Grandpa and put an end to all of the Tycoon's sick games. When the goon is gone, Seto retrieves his 3 star chips, bringing him up to 6, though he does not stay in the duel box long, as both Yugi and Joey want to find their next opponent so they can catch up. As they walk, Joey comments that there's still one thing about that duel with the ghoul that's still bothering him. How did he get an exact copy of Gramps' deck? Strolling beside him, Yugi is the one to answer, saying he was wondering that too at first, but when Seto shorted out the box, he saw something strange. All the Mimic's cards disappeared, causing him to believe they were actually holograms projected by the duel box, just like the monster holograms. Scratching his head, Joey groans that holographic cards just don't sit right with him, though offhandedly, Seto retorts that he actually could see them being a step forward for duel monsters, though he wouldn't expect a dinosaur like Pegasus to see it. An angry voice then barks that he shouldn't be talking about dinosaurs so disrespectfully, as from behind a tree, Rex Raptor comes strolling out. In an unimpressed voice, Seto asks if Rex is here to challenge him for his title, stating we've already tried that. But with a scowl, Rex retorts that while he would like to make the national champ into Dino Chow, he's actually here to challenge his brother. Looking a little surprised, Yugi asks why him, to which the Dino Duelist answers that he's going to bring about an extinction level event which will end the Moto period and begin the age of Raptor, but to do that, he needs to wipe out both brothers, starting with the Runt. Angrily, Seto and Joey snap that Yugi's no runt, though in contrast, Yugi himself remains calm, telling his friend and brother not to get upset, since he's used to people underestimating him, and that this is his chance to prove that he can look after himself. Respecting Yugi's wishes, the 2 taller boys stand back, allowing Rex to lead them all to a duel box a short distance away. Immediately, Yugi notices this is a mountain field, with peaks covering both sides, and while he does not know what type of monster it favors, he can tell that ironically, both sides will be on a level playing field. Wagering 4 star chips each, Rex and Yugi then begin the duel. In an act that has become alarmingly usual by now, Yugi starts by giving himself over to the puzzle spirit, who opens the duel with his command knight in attack mode. Unfortunately, Rex isn't the regional runner-up for nothing, responding with Sword Arm of Dragon, causing an orange Stegosaurus to burst into life on the field and skewer Yugi's knight with his barbed tail. Letting out an exclamation of shock, Yugi watches his life point total drop to 1850, then begins his own turn. This time he draws Jack's knight, and so summoning onto the field, field, orders it to wipe out this dinosaur. At once, the miniature knight does so, beheading the beast and bringing Rex's life points down to match Yugi's. Now it is the Dino Duelist's turn again, and he wastes no time in showing Yugi his giant Rex, with this monster soon proving itself too much for Jack's knight to handle. As a result, Yugi loses a further 100 life points, though fortunately he has a counter, bringing out his Silent Magician level 4 and using Card of Sanctity to boost its attack points to 2000, making it even with giant Rex. From the sidelines, Tristan comments that this is the closest duel he's ever seen, with the two duels being incredibly similar in skill. However, with a grin, Joey tells his pointy-haired friend that he ain't seen nothing yet, as Yugi's about to pull out a masterclass move. Haughtily, Rex snaps back that from where he's standing, it looks like Yugi's stalling, though when he passes his turn, Seto comments that Rex isn't very bright, is he? Silent Magician gains 500 attack each time Rex draws, and what has he done since Yugi's last turn? Gasping in horror, Rex cries out to his dinosaur, but it's already too late, as the now 2500 attack Silent Magician blows Giant Rex away, and with it, reduces Rex's life points to 1350. With this resolved, Yugi ends his turn, causing Rex to draw, and Silent Magician to gain another 500 attack, making it as strong as Seto's Blue Eyes. Yugi doubts that Rex will have anything as strong as that in his deck, meaning that next turn he can bring out his strongest monster, Silent Magician level 8. However, what Yugi doesn't know is that Rex does in fact have a monster capable of toppling the Silent Magician, with that being his Red Eyes Black Dragon, which he plays in attack mode. At first this seems like an absurd play, as Red Eyes only has 2400 attack, though it is here that Rex reveals what monster type benefits from the mountain field: dragons. At once, everything makes sense, as Red Eye's power skyrockets to 3120, allowing it to destroy Silent Magician before it can begin its metamorphosis, and bring Yugi down to 1630 life points. What follows is several turns of defensive dueling from Yugi, as he is forced to throw out monsters in defense mode, only for them to be easily dispatched by Red Eyes. This is bad. Nothing in his deck is as strong as that dragon with its mountain boost, and soon he will run out of monsters, which in turn will mean he loses the duel. However, just when it seems like all hope is lost, he draws the card that just might save him, a 2-star monster with less than 500 attack points. Playing it face down defense mode like all the rest, Yugi holds his breath. The entire outcome of this duel now depends on if Rex takes his bait or not. Fortunately for Yugi, there is nothing to tip Rex off to the importance of this play, as it is the exact same one he has made for the last several turns, meaning that without hesitation, the Dino Duelist has his Red Eyes attack. At once, Yugi flips his monster face up, revealing it to be the old Vindictive Magician, before adding that it has a special effect. Dismissively, Rex asks if it pulls a bunny out of its hat or something, and with a determined grin, Yugi answers that it's far more impressive than that. When old Vindictive Magician is sent to the graveyard from face-down defense position, it is able to take a friend along with it, meaning Red Eyes is also about to be destroyed. Cackling maliciously, the wizard then waves its staff, causing both itself and Red Eyes to vanish in a puff of smoke, while up above, Rex's mouth falls open in shock. However, this is only short-lived, as in an attempt to maintain his bravado, Rex then sneers that little Yugi might have gotten rid of his dragon, but he's got another fearsome monster lurking in his hand, the dreaded Black Tyranno. To prove this point, he then summons the beast, with it letting out a terrifying roar as it appears. Luckily for Yugi, Rex has already had his battle phase this turn, so it cannot attack, though he warns that this is only a stay of execution, as next turn, his Tyranno is going to make a meal of the boy with the tri-toned hair. Though he hates to admit it, Yugi suspects that Rex is right, since he can't think of any other card in his deck that can pull off what old Vindictive Magician just did. However, even in the direst of predicaments, he refuses to give in, placing his faith in the heart of the cards as he makes what he knows will be his final draw of the duel, for better or for worse. For a moment, there is silence as everyone awaits the outcome of this fateful draw. Then, a smile begins to crest Yugi's lips as he tells Rex he is afraid the meal will have to wait, as he's just won this duel. Furiously, Rex screams that this is impossible. Though still grinning, Yugi retorts that nothing's impossible if you believe in the heart of the cards. He then plays the card he just drew, Monster Reborn, causing Red Eyes Black Dragon to return to the field, now on Yugi's side. Like with Rex, it immediately gets the field power bonus, causing the boy and the beanie to comment that this is Yugi's plan, eh? Not bad using the bonus, but Red Eyes still isn't strong enough to wipe out all his life points, meaning sooner or later, he'll make a comeback. He always does. Letting out a soft chuckle, Yugi agrees that Rex is right. Red Eyes alone isn't strong enough to deplete all of Rex's remaining points, though he never said Red Eyes would be the one to do it. Sweating a little now, Rex demands to know what Yugi is planning, to which the spiky-haired youth answers that the Dino Duelist will see, as he plays Polymerization, fusing the Red Eyes in his field with the Meteor Dragon in his hand to create Meteor Black Dragon. Rising into the air, the purple beast with his tail made of magma then begins manifesting a massive meteor, which it hurls at Black Tyranno. Letting out a squeal of terror, Rex orders his dino to do something, but it is already too late, as the T-Rex is soon squashed, taking all of Rex's remaining life points with it. From the side of the field, Joey taunts that he guesses it really was a meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. While rising to his feet, Yugi claims his starships, bringing him to 8. Despite being a total weasel, Rex is no cheat, accepting his loss with a grumble and slinking off towards the boat home, while Yugi reverts to normal and joins his friends. After watching the Moto brothers duel, Joey is ready for his next match, feeling like he needs to catch up, since they both have more than half of their required starships, while he's only got a measly 2. Unfortunately for the blonde, by the time night falls, they have not been able to locate a second opponent for him, and he'll have to bunk down and try again in the morning. While sitting around the campfire, the team are joined by a newcomer, though a familiar one, Bakura from school, who greets them warmly and joins them by the fire as if this was always planned. For a time they all chat amiably, until Joey begins staring fixedly at one of his cards. Curiously, Bakura asks the other boy what's the matter, with Joey explaining how sometimes he likes to imagine himself as one of his monsters when he duels. Laughing a little, Seto and Taya call this a bit weird, though with a laugh of his own, Joey teases that they can't throw stones, since he's seen the way his bud looks at that blue eyes of his. And as for Taya, he ain't even gonna say what he's caught her staring at. Before an actual argument can break out, Bakura suggests a change of activity, saying why don't they all put one card representing themselves into Yugi's deck, and then he'll duel him, that way it's like he's dueling all of them. Thinking this sounds cool, the gang will pick their favourite card and entrust them to Yugi, who shuffles them into his deck and lays it on a tree stump so they can begin to play. Taking a seat across from Yugi, Bakura begins to grin, his demeanour growing sinister as he attempts to start the shadow game. Being a group of weak mortals devoid of magic, it will only take a moment for the shadows to consume them, and then he will be able to lay claim to the Millennium Puzzle. However, before the darkness can settle in, it is driven away by a pair of shining golden lights, which force Yummy Bakura to shield his eyes. At first he looks to Yugi, assuming this is an act of the puzzle, though, to his surprise, he soon identifies the source as the two brothers Seto and Mokuba. This doesn't make any sense, as this sort of light magic hasn't been employed since the days of the Nameless Pharaoh. Then he sees it, the Millennium mark upon their foreheads. This must have something to do with the wish little Yugi made on the puzzle. Very well, he will halt his assault for now, and find another way to get his hands on the puzzle later. As nothing actually happened as far as the children could tell, it is a small feat for the Spirit of the Ring to backtrack, relinquishing his hold on Bakura for now, and watching as the children all shake their heads and ask if anyone else suddenly felt lightheaded. In unison, they all confirm they did, commenting that it's strange, though there's no need to worry now that it's past, meaning they can begin their game. What follows is an entirely mundane duel between Yugi and the real Bakura, resulting in Yugi using a combo of his Silent Magician level 8, Seto's Blue Eyes, and Joey's Flame Swordsman to clench victory. Rising to shake hands, the two boys agree that it was a fun duel and a nice change of pace from all the high-stakes matches they've been having lately, only for a scream to draw their attention. Running in the direction of the sound, the gang come across a tall man dressed in black leather with two large duel gauntlets, laughing maniacally as he stands over a young boy. Scowling, Joey demands to know what this big jerk thinks he's doing scaring a little kid like that. Though still cackling, the man replies that it's none of his business, and that unless he wants to be his next victim, he should move along. However, instead of being cowed, Joey retorts that actually he's been looking to duel someone for ages, and if it means he can put down a wannabe tough guy bully while he does it, all the better. Looking at Joey for the first time, the big man leers that he can see fire in this one's eyes. Good. He looks forward to putting it out and leaving the blonde a shattered mess, just like the worm he just beat. He then explains that his name is Panic, and he is an Eliminator, causing Seto to step up and warn Joey to be careful, reminding him of how much trouble the other Eliminator gave him. Grinning, Joey tells his best pal not to sweat it, since he's gonna clean this goofball's clock. Then, following Panic, he steps into a nearby duel box. When they are seated, Panic barks at Joey to lay down his starships, with the blonde wagering his 2, and Andy the Eliminator is more than capable of matching, as he snarls he looks forward to putting down such an insolent cur. He then goes first, summoning his Castle of Dark Illusions in defense mode, with a large floating citadel suddenly manifesting above the field. However, this is not the strange part, as when the castle appears, everything else disappears, being obscured in darkness as Panic's entire field goes pitch black. From inside of the field, Joey demands to know what Panic thinks he's doing turning out all the lights, though as the Eliminator's eyes gleam dangerously through the darkness, he explains that this is his castle's special ability, as now all his cards will remain hidden from view, so long as it's on the field. Recognizing the disadvantage this puts him in, Joey can't help but sweat, an action that is not lost on Panic, who tauntingly asks if he's scared, since he should be. He is what goes bump in the night. He is little Joey's worst nightmare. And he's going to have the boys screaming for mummy in just a few turns. Trying to keep his cool, Joey jokes that to reach that point, he'll have to end his turn instead of just blabbing. Though even while being flippant, he can't stop staring at Panic's ominous glowing eyes and thinking about the chill they send down his spine. Finally, Panic does concede the move, and so Joey summons his battle steer, though since he can't touch the castle, he ends his turn there. Cackling maniacally, Panic opens his turn by bringing out a monster, though with his field all blacked out, Joey doesn't have a clue what it is. All he knows is that it has large pink claws when they shoot out of the darkness to snag his steer and pull it into the gloom. A moment later, Joey hears a choked braying sound, and then his battle steer is no more, with his life points dropping to 1,720 as a result. Getting flustered, Joey next summons Axe Raider, telling it to go slice and dice that mystery monster, since he ain't gonna sit around and wait for his guys to be picked off one by one. From the sidelines, his friends yell for him not to give this command, citing how if Joey looks at the damage he took last turn, it is clear that Panic's monster has over 2,000 attack points. Unfortunately, it is already too late, as with a shriek, Axe Raider is destroyed too, causing Joey to lose more life points, now being at 1,340. Sneering sadistically, Panic tells the others not to waste their breath. Little Joey's quite literally jumping at shadows now, which means he's already won. He then summons another monster and ends his turn, goading the blonde by saying that he can't wait to see what blunder he makes next. However, after that last mistake, Joey wants to play smart, playing his Chasm of Spikes trap card face down so that next time Panic summons a monster, 1/4 of its attack will come out of Panic's life points. Feeling confident in this plan, he then summons Armored Lizard and Defense Mode to protect his life points and ends his turn. Unfortunately, Joey's hopes of a clever ruse are dashed a moment later, when Panic reveals one of his monsters to be the Reaper of the cards. Worriedly, Yugi tells Joey to watch out, since the Reaper can destroy spell and trap cards, though by now Joey has already figured that out, as the scythe-wielding Spectre has drifted into view and slashed at his trap, rendering it moot and leaving poor Armored Lizard vulnerable to those awful clawed hands, which pull it into the darkness, just like Battle Steer. Though Armored Lizard's destruction does not cost Joey any life points, the blonde boy is still badly shaken, burying his head in his hands and asking why he ever kidded himself into believing he could play here in the big leagues. However, before this self-doubt can escalate into a full-on pity party, a voice snaps at Joey to shut up already. Looking round, Joey sees Seto, who is fixing him with a furious glare, as he calls this attitude pathetic. Has he forgotten what he's dueling for? Shaking his head, Joey replies that he remembers he's dueling for serenity, to which Seto bluntly states that he's right, reminding him that if he keeps acting like a coward and loses his head here, his sister will lose her sight forever. At his side, Mokuba tells his big bro that he gets he's trying to help Joey, but he doesn't have to be so mean, though in contrast, Joey retorts that actually Seto's pep talk was perfect, thanking his bud, then yelling that Joey Wheeler's back. This elicits cheers from his friends, though it seems Joey isn't done yet, as he grins that he's also figured something out. The real coward at this table is Panic. Snarling like a mad dog, Panic orders Joey to watch his tongue. Though laughing now, Joey elaborates that Panic's a total wuss, who uses tricks and lies to hide because he's got no real substance, and that like all cowardly bullies, what he fears most is being exposed. To prove this, he summons Swamp Battle Guard in attack mode, though this is not the crux of the play, as while he keeps taunting Panic, he also plays a trap card face down. Predictably, Panic in his agitated state has his clawed monster attempt to pull Swamp Battle Guard into the shadows, though with a cluck of his tongue, Joey reveals that Panic was so spooked by his talk of exposing him that he didn't even notice his trap. He then unveils his face down, with it being kunai with chain. As a result, when a fearsome clawed hand reaches out for Swamp Battle Guard, the ogre is able to use its new chain weapon to impale its hand, then pull the mystery monster into the light. Subsequently, it is revealed that Panic's monster is none other than Ryukushin Powered, who thanks to being brought into the light, loses its field power bonus. This leaves it significantly weaker than Swamp Battle Guard, meaning the Green Goliath is easily able to destroy it, or reducing Panic's life points to 1,300. Now that Panic is losing, he begins to, well, panic, as he hastily summons a new monster to replace his old one, as well as playing Chaos Shield to keep all his monsters safely within a barrier where Joey's kunai with chain can't touch them. However, instead of being stymied, Joey grins that Panic's just proving himself more of a coward than ever, since now he's cowering at the first sign of pushback. This incenses the Eliminator, who shrieks that he will not be spoken down to by some brat, before shooting a wire out of his gauntlet, aimed at Joey's throat, snarling that when he wins, he'll pull it taut, and see if the boy has any more witty comments. However, to Panic's shock, Joey catches it with his own gauntlet, wrapping the wire around the portion that holds his star chips, and yanking it so it snaps. He then calls threats of violence another pathetic bully move, adding that it won't work on him, since he knows all the tricks, because he used to be a bully just like Panic, until a good pal set him straight. And speaking of good pals, he's about to expose him with a card another good pal gave him. He then plays Time Wizard, calling for a time roulette, a risky play, as with Swamp Battle Guard's attack being boosted by kunai with chain, everyone knows that if the dial lands on a skull, Joey will lose all his life points and be eliminated from the tournament. However, in classic Joey Wheeler fashion, he manages to luck into just the result he needs, with Time Wizard landing on a time machine and beginning his sword to age everything on the field 1,000 years. Unfortunately, when the effect ends, Panic taunts that Joey's move was for nothing, since his monsters are an eternal spirit and an unaging vampire, neither of which were affected by the passage of time. Smirking, Joey tells Panic that he thinks he might need to count again, since last he checked, the big guy had 3 monsters on the field, one of whom was a castle. You know, those things that tend to crumble with age. Letting out a shriek of abject horror, Panic looks up to see his castle in shambles, with pieces of debris plummeting down towards his side of the field. Frantically, the Eliminator commands his monsters to flee, but with his Chaos Shield still being in play, they can do no such thing, meaning as the darkness lifts, the first and last sight Joey gets of Panic's monsters is them being flattened by the Castle of Dark Illusions, and Panic taking half their combined attack points as damage, thus dropping him to 0 life points. Now it is Panic's turn to cradle his head in his hands, demanding to know how he could lose, though without a hint of pity, Joey tells him that it's because he's a bullying, cowardly slimeball. Wasn't he listening to a word he said during their duel? He then orders the Eliminator to get out of his sight, with the ghoulish man slinking off into the night, though not before snarling that one day he'll make Joey pay for this. Now that Panic is gone, the gang are finally able to get some shut-eye, and it's good that they do, as the next morning arrives in seemingly no time at all, bringing with it immense pressure, since Yugi, Joey, and Seto all know that the cutoff to enter the castle is tonight, meaning they need to find some opponents fast, or risk being eliminated by timeout. Taking off at a brisk jog, the gang soon come across a duel already in progress, and to their surprise, they know both participants. On one side is their friend, Mako Tsunami, while on the other is that creep Bandit Keith. As they arrive, Keith is commenting on how fortunate it is that he's drawn another 7 complete, meaning he can power up his slot machine and wipe out Fishboy's life points. Good, or perhaps bad to his word, the bandit then does exactly this, destroying Mako's monster and ending the duel. Cackling like a hyena, Keith then scoops up his newly won starships and places them in his gauntlet, while mockingly bidding Mako goodbye and taunting that he hopes he enjoys the ride home. Running up to the Ocean Duelist, Joey asks if it's true that he's really just been eliminated, to which Mako solemnly nods, wishing his friends luck and warning them to watch out for Keith. However, it seems Seto has no desire for such caution, demanding Keith battle him right now, though with another cackle, the American retorts there's no point, since he's already got 10 starships, so he's heading up to the castle to wait for the playoffs. He then looks to Yugi, saying he ought to thank him, since most of those chips came from that Mai chick he left passed out near the coast, a claim which disgusts everyone, with Yugi calling him a thief. Snarkily, Keith retorts that he's just mad he didn't do it first, but since he's such a nice guy, he'll give Yugi the 2 spares he got from that Mako dweeb as his cut, since it really was a team effort. He then tosses the boy a pair of starships and begins strolling in the direction of the castle, seemingly oblivious to the names the heroes call him, while easily sidestepping a rock Joey hurls at his back. Refusing to allow this sleaze to get away with this, the gang give chase, though in the dense forest, it's easy to lose track of their quarry. Soon, they stumble upon a cave, and so yelling there's nowhere for Keith to run, Joey charges in, with his friends following suit. Unfortunately, while they do not find Bandit Keith, the friends do find an elaborate network of tunnels, with them soon getting so lost that backtracking is no longer an option. Angrily, Taya yells this is all Joey's fault, telling him to think before running off next time. Though before the blonde can defend himself, Bakura gets everyone's attention, saying his Millennium Ring has started pointing him down a certain tunnel. Curiously, Tristan asks Bakura what he thinks it means, to which the white-haired boy answers that he theorizes the rings can point him towards other Millennium items, so most likely, it's pointing them towards the castle and Pegasus. Excitedly, Mokuba asks what they're waiting for, with the others all agreeing to let Bakura navigate. The only one who does not exhibit any form of eagerness is Yugi, who has been rather quiet since the encounter with Keith. Hanging back to check on his brother, Seto asks Yugi if he's okay, to which the spiky-haired boy explains that he's feeling a bit conflicted, not just because he didn't earn these starships, but because of how Keith acquired them. If the spirit of the puzzle hadn't cast his spell on Mai, he never would have been able to steal them, and while he agrees Mai shouldn't have cheated in their duel, he's unsure how much he can trust an entity whose actions have such severe consequences which help out scumbags like Keith. He then looks to Seto for guidance, and speaking bluntly, the brunette replies that he's made no secret of the fact that he doesn't trust the puzzle spirit one bit, and he thinks it's unwise for Yugi to give his body over to a being whose true motives are unknown. Though ultimately, what Yugi does from here is something only he can decide, but either way, he wants him to know that he and the rest of his friends will be here to back him up. Venturing further into the cave, the team soon come across a set of double doors, and so assuming this must be the way out, they step inside, only to find a large square room with a pair of doors on the back wall and an odd table in the center. At first they mistake it for the interior of a duel box, though on closer inspection, it has far too many panels, and has seats at each corner, rather than the standard 2 facing across from each other. However, before they can ask any questions, their senses are assailed by a pair of rhyming bald men who perform an acrobatic routine before introducing themselves as Para and Dox, better known as the Paradox Brothers. They also explain that they are Eliminators with a special set of rules. They duel as a pair, which means their challengers must do likewise. Smiling, Seto replies that he's game for a tag duel, with both Yugi and Joey stepping up to offer themselves as his tag partner. Smile fading as he looks at Yugi, Seto says that he hopes he understands, but he's gonna pick Joey this time, since while he has faith in his brother, there's still that issue with the puzzle spirit they discussed. Nodding, Yugi replies that he completely gets it, joining Taya, Tristan, Mokuba, and Bakura as Seto and Joey approach the table, laying down 6 and 4 star chips respectively, meaning they will each have 10 if they win. When they are all seated, the Paradox Brothers explain there are further rules this pair must know regarding this duel, for if they win, they must choose a door, with one containing freedom, while the other leaves them trapped down here forevermore. Scowling, Joey tells them to knock off the rhyming junk and talk normal, but Seto calmly explains that what the brothers are saying is that even if they win, there's still a 50% chance they'll be trapped wandering these tunnels forever. He then asks if there are any clues to the right door, with Para and Dox answering they may each ask a question, with one of them only speaking truth, while the other only speaks lies. Grinning, Joey says he's heard this riddle, telling the brothers to each tell them which door they're guarding, since the truth teller will point to his own door, while the liar will point to the other guy's door. As expected, each point to a door, with Joey informing his pal they now know Dox is the truth teller, so Seto just has to ask Dox which door leads to freedom. However, being a genius, Seto tells Joey not so fast, since both brothers said the same thing, that one is a truth teller and the other is a liar, which would be impossible for the liar to say if it was actually a true statement, meaning the only way they could both say it is if both are liars, and that claim is a lie, meant to lull them into a false sense of security. Scratching his head, Joey sighs that Seto's lost him, though with a slight grin, the brunette tells his best friend not to worry about it, just focus on the duel, and he'll focus on the riddle. With this settled, the match begins, and going first, Dox makes a big play right out of the gate, summoning his Labyrinth wall and causing the entire battlefield to change, as it becomes an intricate maze. Cackling maliciously, the brothers then explain they're playing a whole new game now, as monsters must traverse the maze to battle, moving a number of squares equal to their star level. Making it to the other side of the maze is one of the ways the challengers can win, with the other being they deplete all of one of their opponent's life points, though in turn, if either Joey or Seto lose all their life points, it's game over for their team, and they will be banished to wander these catacombs forever. From his seat, Joey can't help but sweat a little. Not only is there this big door decision weighing on him, but now it turns out that if he loses, he'll be dragging his best pal down with him. It's a lot of pressure. However, when he looks over at Seto, he sees his buddy looking supremely confident, urging Joey to make his move since it's his turn. Laughing awkwardly that he'd forgotten that in the midst of all his worrying, Joey takes his turn, summoning Garuzzi's and having it march 5 squares into the maze. Now it is Para's turn, and without hesitation, he plays a face down then ends his turn, allowing Seto to go. Figuring they have no choice but to explore the maze, Seto summons his Horn Imp, with the little devil moving 4 squares to stand behind Garuzzi's. Following this is Dox, and with it comes the first clash of the duel, as he plays Dungeon Worm. Unlike other monsters, Dungeon Worm is capable of burrowing beneath the maze, allowing it to pop up anywhere without warning. In this case, Dox has it appear beneath Horn Imp, rising up from beneath the imp and gobbling it up in one bite. Then, a moment later it is gone, returning to its burrow and leaving Seto with 1500 life points. Wanting to avenge Seto's monster, Joey summons Guilty of the Night, who charges up to the edge of the worm's hole and sends a homing spell down after the beast, destroying it and costing Dox 50 life points. Then for good measure, he has Garuzzi's advance 5 spaces, scouting out more of the terrain for him and Seto. Now it is back to Para's turn, and he at last summons a monster, with him choosing to bring out the fearsome-looking Labyrinth tank, which is capable of advancing a whopping 7 spaces as it begins to close in on Garuzzi's. Fortunately, Seto has something even more fearsome in his arsenal, summoning Dark Magician and having it move 7 spaces as well. Whether due to there being a hole in the floor from Dungeon Worm, or because this is another act of subtle defiance from the mage, Dark Magician does not take the same path as Guilty and Garuzzi's, instead taking a slightly alternate route, which for now positions it away from its allies. However, this is not Seto's only play, as before ending his turn, he lays a card face down in his spell and trap zone, having a feeling it will come in handy later. Returning to the Paradox Brothers, Dox next summons Monster Tamer and advances it 5 squares, putting it a short way behind Labyrinth Tank. This is a very intentional decision, as it allows the Tamer to use its special ability, cracking its whip and granting Dox control over Para's tank. As a result, the tank is able to advance another 7 spaces, bringing it closer to the challenger's side, and making it the biggest threat on the board. In response to this, Joey brings Guilty up to stand behind Garuzzi's, wanting to keep his guys close, before telling Garuzzi's to advance and do a little more scouting. Unfortunately, the only place Garuzzi's is about to be scouting is the graveyard, as the very next tile the lizard steps on is a trap, with Para revealing his card from the first turn to be none other than Jirai Gomo. At once, the colossal spider bursts from the ground, wrapping its many spear-like appendages around Garuzi's and biting down on its head, dealing 500 damage to Joey and leaving him one monster poorer. Then, to make matters worse, it is now time for Para's turn, with him telling Juraigomo to destroy Guiltier too, though before the spider can strike twice, Seto reveals his own face down to be Mystic Box. This allows him to swap Dark Magician and Juraigomo's positions on the board, while also destroying the spider, as swords rain down from the sky to impale the box that has been placed inside. Wanting to keep the momentum up, Seto then uses his own turn to have Dark Magician advance 3 spaces and wipe out Para's other monster, Labyrinth Tank, reducing his life points to 1900 and marking the first foray into the Paradox Brothers' side of the board. In the face of this, there is little Dox can do, with his best play being to send his monster tamer on a detour in the hope of avoiding Dark Magician and flanking one of Joey's monsters. Speaking of Joey, it is his turn now, with the blonde summoning Flame Swordsman and bringing up 5 spaces to consolidate his forces and get as close to Guilty as possible, before ending his turn and allowing Para to go again. For his turn, Para plays a box, with Joey asking what gives, though from behind him, Yugi tells his friend and brother to watch out, since that's Sangha of the Thunder, 1/3 of the terrifying Gate Guardian, a monster in the class of Exodia. With a cackle, Para claims this is quite right, saying once they have all 3 pieces, they will be nigh on invincible. However, instead of looking worried, Seto coolly retorts that monsters such as the Gate Guardian have a crippling weakness. Remove 1 piece, and the whole thing topples. To this end, he advances his Dark Magician, having it snuff out Dox's Monster Tamer and drop the bald man to 1250 life points, before positioning the wizard so that next turn it can destroy Sangha, declaring the Gate Guardian will not be built. Defiantly, Dox taunts the Briton as getting ahead of himself, as he plays a spell card called Spellbook Organization, which allows him to look at the top 3 cards of his deck and rearrange them in any order he wants. As he does this, he laughingly informs his brother that he has stacked the deck so that he will draw Suijin next turn and Kazujin the turn after, a fact which makes Para laugh too, stating their victory is assured. Growling, Joey retorts they've still got to get through him and Seto as he draws for his turn. Seeing that he has gotten Grave Robber, the blonde decides to play it face down for later, then seeing no other play, he advances his squad as far as they're able, figuring that by sticking with Seto's Dark Magician, they will have strength in numbers. Unfortunately, this plays right into Para's hand, rather literally, as he reveals a spell from his hand called Magical Labyrinth, which allows him to change the layout of the maze to whatever he wants. As a result, the path leading to Sangha is immediately cut off, though to make matters worse, a new set of walls rise up, trapping Seto and Joey's monsters in a 6x6 box with no way out. Grinning, Para then explains this will keep these brats contained until they can finish construction of their Gate Guardian. Unsurprisingly, Seto has no desire to let this come to pass, and so pulling out the big guns, he summons his Blue Eyes, commanding it to fly over the maze and blast Sangha from above. However, here both Para and Dox begin to cackle, informing Seto that the maze is a no-fly zone, meaning Blue Eyes is useless and he's just wasted one of his few remaining turns. Returning to Dox, he summons Suijin's casket as promised, leering that next turn he'll finish creating their ultimate monster, and then they'll destroy all the challenger's monsters and win the duel in one fell swoop. Scowling, Joey retorts that wasn't he the guy who told Seto not to get ahead of himself? Though still with that smirk, Dox tells Joey that if he has a plan to prove him wrong, then by all means to show it. Letting his emotions get the better of him, Joey growls that nobody traps Joey Will like a rat, and so orders Guilty to blow a hole in the wall so they can all escape. Unfortunately, this is a rather ill-fated decision, as when the Magical Knight uses his Soul Spear Assault, the spell bounces back, striking Guiltier and destroying him instead. Laughing heartily, Para then reminds Joey that the Labyrinth is technically a monster, with 3,000 defense points, meaning that in his ignorance, he's just reduced his own life points to 350, and his team's chance of victory to 0. Para then passes his own turn, seeing no point in stalling, as soon the Gate Guardian will arise, though all the same he tells Seto to make his last futile move so that he and his brother can end things. However, to the Paradox Brothers' surprise, Seto meets their eyes with confidence, saying that actually he and Joey are the ones who will end things, as by the end of this turn, he will have assured the brothers' defeat. Furiously, the bald men call this a lie, though with a grin, Seto tells them to wait and see, as he once again orders Blue Eyes to attack. Sighing with relief, Dox comments that Seto must have forgotten dragons can't enter the maze. Though still sure of himself, Seto retorts that he doesn't have to enter it, as like they said, the maze itself is a monster, so he's attacking it. At once, Blue Eyes lets off a powerful white lightning attack, with the blast striking the maze's exterior and causing it to crumble. All throughout the field, the maze begins to collapse, with the result being not only are Seto and Joey's monsters freed from their prison, but the walls that had been put in place to protect Sangha and Suijin are also gone. Though this comes at the cost of Blue Eyes also falling, it allows Seto to have his Dark Magician make good on its promise and destroy Suijin's casket, rendering the Gate Guardian unattainable. This leaves the brothers in a panic, with Dox uselessly playing Kazujin's casket, though both brothers know this is futile as the turn order rolls around to Joey. Looking his best friend in the eye, Seto tells him that it's all up to him now, a claim which makes Joey grin, as he promises his bud that he won't let him down. He then begins his finishing combo, starting by playing Salamandra to power up Flame Swordsman so he can destroy Kazujin from a distance. Then when the Casket of Wind is gone, he reveals his face-down Grave Robber, using it to revive Monster Tamer. This allows him to take control of Dark Magician, and with Seto's blessing, he has it attack again, destroying Sunga and granting his team victory, as they have now officially made it through the maze, with their opponents having no more monsters to stop them. For a moment, Para and Doc stare on in disbelief, unable to comprehend how they have lost, though when Joey and Seto grab their starships, each now having 10, the brothers are forced to look up. Hoping to regain some modicum of control, they tell the boys that even though they've won the duel, there's still the matter of the doors, reminding them that if they choose wrong, they'll be trapped roaming these tunnels forever. Truthfully, neither Seto nor Joey are sure which door to choose, having hoped something would become clearer during the duel, though to their surprise, this is when Yugi speaks up, asking if he can choose, since he's pretty sure he knows the answer. Having complete faith in Yugi, Seto and Joey agree without hesitation, and so Yugi begins marking up 2 coins before placing one in each hand, saying that one is Para's mark while the other is Dox's, and whichever coin he keeps clutched in his hand will be the door they choose. Everyone watches with bated breath as Yugi then steps up, holding out his 2 clenched fists before flipping one up to reveal the Dox coin. Unable to help themselves, the brothers gloat that Yugi chose wrong, as Dox's door was the path to salvation, though since they chose Para's, they must now wander an endless maze for all time. However, here it is Yugi's turn to grin, saying that actually, they never saw his choice, as he shows the other coin to also carry Dox's mark. He then explains that during the duel, he figured out the brothers can change which door leads to the castle, just like they could change the maze, so they would have always made them choose wrong. To protect from this, he decided to play a little trick of his own, and since they've already admitted Dox's door is right and his chosen coin was the second Dox coin, he technically chose right, meaning they must let them go free. Gritting their teeth, the Bald brothers can see that this is true, opening Dox's door and allowing them to step once more into daylight. From here it is only a short walk up to Pegasus' castle, and as Yugi, Joey and Seto all present their 10 starships to gain entry, they all share the same thought, that in spite of all they've gone through to get here, the real challenge begins now. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.